And this whole time I didn't have the sound on. That's why. That's why I check this stuff. Wow, that has some latency. Still waiting. Oh. Right now I'm watching myself, and this whole time I didn't have the sound on. Okay, so now we're started up. So here's where we were. Yeah, I had this working where I had made it detect where which stack the mouse is over, and it'll draw a line from the center to that stack, including the center itself. Totally intended. And the next thing we're going to do is to make it so that I can drag from one stack to another. And as long as I have the mouse held down, it'll keep on using the mouse coordinates of the first thing that I clicked. So first of all, maybe I could just put that in input.js though. I mean, it's not like I have to have one class per file. That's just Java indoctrination. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get where it's coming from, but you know, where are you going to look for mouse code? Input. So we'll see which one gets used more. The mouse is going to have, they're all going to be singletons. Because it's not like I need to make a bunch of instances of an object. Nobody has two mice. Computer mouses. Okay, mouse X and Y, and probably won't use the right button, but it's there. So what we need is a static init, mouse init. British people and talking about computers. So the init function is going to just give me some initial values. This is what's going to be assigning the events. And status get chords. And what this is going to do you had your fun. Static LNB down is going to give us mouse.lb, which stands for left button, equals 1. And static set forwards. Is that what I want? EV mouse down. Static EV mouse up. And we also want static EV mouse move, and this is where the mouse logic will go, the one that I had in stack.js. No wait, it is in draw.js in the test function. This is just where I'm throwing shit. This is not a function that will make it into the final program, of course. So what exactly am I doing? I'm just going to take this code and move it over. So first, let's take that function and move it out. Take this in int. So mouse move will be EV mouse move. Separate mouse.EV mouse move. And we'll rework it now. So X and Y, EV page X minus current target dot offset left. So it's getting the, what the point of all that is to get the actual mouse coordinates relative to the elements rather than relative to the screen. Because, you know, relative to the screen, this here is not like 5.5. Yeah. Relative to the element, this is at like 5.5. But relative to the screen, this is at like 605. 615 more like. And that's not what we want. We want what's the mouse coordinate inside here. So that's why we're subtracting the offset. So page X and page Y give you the relative to the browser window, to the document body or view pane, the page. And I'm not sure how that works when you're scrolled, but I guess the offsets would take care of that anyway. And then stack ID, naming it stack ID. Stack. Use our naming convention. So my naming convention is mostly one word, using underscores where appropriate. Like stack ID, it's obvious where the word boundary is, so we don't bother. Not that this is invalid to do this, it's just unnecessary. It's still easy to read what it says. It's very subjective, but so we don't need to console log that. Trying to clear though. We're going to allow some amount of coupling. I guess downstack can be can default to 7. 6, not 7. 7 is out of range. And since we're not using a right mouse button, we're going to just take that out. So if stack ID isn't equal to -1, then mouse.curStack equals stack ID. Well, we need a generalized. It had a set chord function. What happened to that? It vanished. Oh, because it turned it into an event function. So we'll go ahead and take that. And so every event will call set chords, which will update the mouse X and Y. So I mean, let's just do this. Set chords AV, so we'll go ahead and let it borrow our event to set the mouse coordinates. And we do need to differentiate between when the mouse is down and when it's up, because do we? I mean, if we're just moving the mouse, so mouse.curStack equals where'd it go? Stack.which stack, and we'll get rid of the draw clear and all that other stuff. So on mouse down, if well, first let's up stack ID. Wow, spelling. We do mouse.set. Oh. Got again. Okay, so stack ID equals stack dot which stack Okay, so mouse down, what we're doing, if the stack ID is not -1, so meaning we're actually hovering over a stack, and we should also make sure that it's not, well, if it's stack 6, then that can just be interpreted as the, is there like an attempt to put it down? Let's not make this overly verbose. Attempt to put down ring. Oh. Otherwise, you do want to be careful in an event function, in an event callback, because if you return out of an event callback, it'll actually cancel the default pipeline. So I can actually demonstrate that. So you see how I right-click on this, it opens a context menu. Now if I take draw.canvas, did I spell that right? Okay. Draw.canvas dot on add event listener context menu. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and console.log that the right click was detected. Ah, shit, I didn't mean to do it. Okay. There's return false. Yeah, you can see I right click once, and then if you're looking at this number here, see it goes up twice. It's because those events stack. That's what add event listener means. There's a way to remove event listeners, but I feel like I should just refresh the page. Oh boy. I guess they changed it, huh? So maybe that was a bug after all. Yes, it now works. So I guess you can return from an event without canceling other events, other callbacks. Handler code. I'm right-clicking on it now. There's no context menu. And that's on account of the prevent default. Yeah, JavaScript is weird. So we're not doing that. What we need to do when the mouse is clicked down is this. We get the coordinates, we assign them, and we set that the left button is down. And then we get the stack ID by trying to find which which stack the cursor is over. And if it is over a stack, then we do some more stuff, otherwise we don't really need to do anything else. So, just going to do that. There's nothing more to do Otherwise, we need to check some other things. So if stack ID is 6, then that's in the center. Else, then mouse dot. I'm just double checking stuff. Mouse dot down stack. Maybe not the greatest name, but mouse dot down stack equals stack ID. So that's the stack that we clicked down on. And then when we mouse up, you know what? Make more sense for it to happen when you release the mouse click. It also gives you a small opportunity. If you accidentally click on the center, you can move away from it and let go. So if stack ID is -1, then return. We're done. There's nothing more to do. If stack ID is 6, we're hovering over the center while releasing the mouse button. So that's the cue to put the ring down, if it's possible. This will also be done when space is pressed. Okay, and get rid of that else. Okay, so if it's not the center one, what do we do? Need to think this through. If we're hovering over the middle stack, the center stack, then that's telling the game to put the ring down. If we're hovering over a different stack, then we need to check what the okay, so that's another to do. Move ring from down stack to cur stack. And we'll just do that too. Okay, yeah, let's not do that. Don't fuck with the cur stack. The down stack gets fucked with by mouse down. But when we're moving the mouse around, that's when we can set the cur stack. And we'll allow it to be -1. So it'll be the responsibility of the drawing function to check that we're pointing to a valid stack before we actually point a line to it. So there's our events. And so there's going to be more things like when we're drawing. So say we have our mouse down in a stack. What it's going to do is it's going to pop the ring from that stack once the mouse moves off of it. And then it's going to draw a ring where the mouse cursor is, as long as mouse is down. And yeah. And then it's also going to draw a line pointing to the stack to show you where the ring will go down if you let go of the mouse button. So if the stack ID when you let go of the mouse button is -1, it's not pointing at any stack, so the ring needs to go back to where it was. So that's also a thing. Okay, so now let's go back to our init function and add some more events. So mouse down. And mouse up. Let's just keep these aligned, since they're right next to each other. Okay, so yeah, so game.js. Well, no, the way I did was that main.js is the last JavaScript module that's included, and it calls game.main. So since main.js is included the last, that guarantees that everything is loaded in before the code starts running, so you don't get any stupid errors saying, oh, this thing isn't loaded yet because you included this thing before this thing. None of that. So you can just leave that code in there. What else do we need to mess with? Clav. Keyboard. Now, how should I do this? If we take the I want to do it in a way that's dynamic. So I have a keys down array, which every key down event will push the key string into the keys down array, and on every key up event will find and splice out that string that matches if it exists. That might get a little messy. I might have to do an object, get that hash table action, then we can just look it up. If I do that, then I have to use object.keys to enumerate the existing keys. But then I can map functions to strings or combinations of strings. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, though. So all right, so we have our main function, And what we need to do I guess I need a way to generate a random ring. So generate ring. And what this will do is it'll math.floor math.random. Could let go of shift before pressing the next key, that'd be great. Math.random times stack dot chords only. That's messy. So we need to fgrab for stack chords. Okay, so here are the 3 places. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go to stack.js and static and stacks. Remember that the all caps are constants and lowercase are meant to be mutable. The language will not enforce this, but generally if you see something like mouse.const equals 5 outside of its declaration, then that's very much wrong. So nstacks, now I can just define that to 6. So line 15. I added a line, that's why. And this actually is iterating over the chords. So this is valid. Draw.js line 76. What is this doing? This is just test code that's irrelevant. Game.js line 6. I'm already here. So this is where we cross the line. And stacks. And there were not 6 stacks. What am I doing? There are 7 stacks. Because the final stack is the one that the rings come from. That might bite me in the ass later, but that's what we're doing for now. So let's do stacks minus 1 when we were talking about the 6 interactable ones. So we're generating a random number that will Oh, but like, okay, so that's how we're selecting. I'm actually doing here is selecting a stack. And this will give us the idea of one of the stacks. And okay, just have a random stack, and then we need a random ring. Okay. So what we want to do is, what am I doing? Let a random stack and let cell ring and one thing we need to keep in mind, check if ring is possible, because we don't want to give the player a ring that they cannot possibly arrange for. Because otherwise, you know, you could just shoot out 7 green rings and then the game is instantly over. So there has to be a free space. Or there has to be a space where the ring could go somewhere on the board. But that's for later. So what we need to do is draw so here we go. We have our stacks, which is going to have six 0 stacks proper. And static push So what this will do is stacks, or stack.stacks stack id dot push ring. This is just the basic functionality. And static pop yes. So we're able to push a ring into one of the stacks and then retrieve said ring. I'm just going to close this. It's in the way. I'm just thinking right now. So we do need a way to draw the background. And I actually just remembered this. You stop. This is going to kill the browser if I run it, because JavaScript is weird. You can't just run an infinite loop in JavaScript. I don't know why, really. I guess the JavaScript interpreter and the renderer just run on the same thread, and the renderer waits for the JavaScript to finish executing before anything is allowed to continue, before it gets to the event loops and rendering things on the page. So if you get stuck in a while loop, or just like any kind of loop forever, then the browser just hangs. So we can't do this. What we actually have to do is this. So interval game.loop and we're not supposed to call that. Oh my god, can you please? Okay. And we also need I think we'll just go for 30 FPS for now. So we need to express that in milliseconds. I'm going to have to do this with a request animation frame. However, request animation frame does not give you the ability to specify the desired frame rate. Here's what we did. So frame rate is 30, but the delta time equals 1,000, the number of milliseconds in a second, divided by game dot frame rate. And these are constants, so okay. Let's go back to draw.js. We need a way to draw the background. So I'm going to break some rules here. We need to, we don't want to return a reference to the array. And I'm pretty sure that if we just return the array, it's going to be a reference. We want a copy. So just use the spread operator. Oops. Okay, so let's just make sure that that is doing what we think it's doing. So let's say you have an array. Okay, and then you're saying let b equals a. And what do you think happens when we do b0 equals 77? A gets modified. We don't want that. You saw that I reassigned a to a new array and b stayed the same as it was. So if we do b equals dot 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 a using the spread operator to unpack the array and then putting that inside brackets to make another array, this should make a copy. So a is this and b is this, but a is not equal to b. And if I do b0 equals 77 and check a is unmodified, but b is modified. And if we do let c equals a and then check if a equals c, you can see they are the same. So the identity equality checks that they are equivalent in value, but also that they are the same type. But in the case of something like an array, being equal constitutes having the same address because they are references. So that's why a is equal to c while a is not equal to b, since b was made from a but is not actually a. Somebody asked me why I do the spread operator like that when they saw code that was doing this. Okay, so b.sort returns an array, which is sorted, but you'll notice that the array was actually modified in that sort. So there are reasons why you want to copy an array, because maybe you have an array that you want to keep in a certain order, but then you have other arrays that you want to be able to like grab the 3 largest values from the array, but without changing the elements in the array, then you'd have to copy it and do that. So that's why we're doing this. Because what I'm going to be doing is taking a copy of the stack and running through each value and rendering them in order from left to right. Since we're popping and pushing from the right side, we need to be reading it from left to right when we're actually rendering the rings in order. I might give the stacks some initial values so that we can test the drawing. So instead of draw a background, we're just going to be draw stacks. So for let I equals 0, I is less than stack.chords.length plus I. Constant stack position equals stack chords I. But we don't want to be drawing, well, here. We'll do this. Stack.stack stack ID. If ref equals null, then return is an empty array. Otherwise, return ref. So this will make a copy of the reference, which will make a new array, and guarantee that if we get an out of range value like the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the center ring, it just always gives us an empty array. Like it can't possibly. And I should also do that for this. So, and ref is a bad name. Cell stack. Cell stack equals stack.stacks stack ID. I could have just copied that line from the other function. Okay, so if cell stack equals null, then return 0. Just always 0. Else return stack ID, no, cell stack dot pop. And for the push, if cell stack equals null, then we're just going to return without doing anything. Otherwise, we're going to take cell stack and push ring So undefined will pass that test, and we'll get an error if we go even further beyond out of range. Okay, so we have our stack position, stack chords I. Losing it. Draw ring, stack position 0, stack position 1. And we're not drawing a particular ring here. What we need to do is first, okay, I need a special ring value. So So we're going to come back to that in a second. So ring sizes. We're just going to add an extra ring in there for size 60. Ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea. Because didn't... Yeah. I think the 50 went like right up to the edge, so I'm just going to have to... I'm just going to subtract 5 from each of these. No. Why do I have to do that? We'll just, oh, that's why. So we're going to put that 50 back in. What we're doing is we're drawing the background, because otherwise you just have a blank canvas and that doesn't really convey that there's something there. So the color for this extra ring is going to be AAA. It should be like a gray color. It's darker than what we have for the background. Okay, so that was 4. We have 0, 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 is our background. And then what we're doing is let stack equals cell stack equals stack dot get stack I. And then 4 dot I equals 0, I is less than, actually I could just do cell stack dot for each. Cool. So draw stacks is going to be the first thing that it does. So draw.clear and draw stacks. And we'll just leave it at that. We need to give stack.js an initial set of values. So we'll say this has a green ring, this has a green and a red ring, a green and a red and a blue ring, 0, 1, 2, 3. This has a 0, 3, and a 1, 2. Okay, what is wrong? I thought that was just because I was in the middle of typing the code. Expected expression got on line 15.9 and input.js. There's your expression. Now lay off. Cool. So here's your 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 3, and 1, 2. Reflects the data structure. So there we go. We have some rings rendering. This is, it's starting to take shape. I don't have any gameplay yet, though. And there's your gray background, because well, we designed it in a way that I can yeah, that I can just go through all of the so make sure. Cool. And you can see the gray background in this one too. So where there wasn't a green ring covering it. So yeah, it's fine to just have them be the same size, because I mean, this is only here as a kind of placeholder, so that you're not just looking at a blank square. As for the stats like the score and stuff, I can put that to the side or perhaps down here. Like, it doesn't have to be in the game window. This is just for the displaying an interactive part. So let's move on. We have our stack drawing code. What we need to do is yes. We need to let the middle stack carry one ring. Because this will be the easiest way to just let things render. We're just going to have special cases on the 7th stack to not let it be, messed with or used as a normal stack. Like for this stuff, instead of checking for null, if cell stack is 6, then return we're not pushing anything. Well, no. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to deny any operation happening on 6. Except for this one. We'll just let it be. And I guess we'll just let this one be as well. And maybe actually instead of returning, we'll just, no, we can't do that. If we do this, then this will just replace the local variable with an array containing ring, and it won't actually change the original reference. So what we need to do is, if cell stack equals 6, I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this, but so if cell stack length equals 1, and cell stack pop, and then cell stack push. Okay. And cell stack dot length is one. There it goes. That's a lot simpler. So now we're just checking if cell stack is 6 and the length is 1, then we're just going to go ahead and pop that value in. So this will guarantee that that this stack here will always have at most 1. If there's already 1 in there, it'll take it out if we're pushing the new value in. And so let's say that the game is trying to throw you a green. This is what that should look like, not this. Static is reserved identifier. What line? On stack line 41. What are you talking about? Okay, that is a terrible error message. The error was that this bracket here was matching this bracket because I deleted the bracket. And JavaScript somehow confused this for static being tried to use as an identifier. It thought that I was trying to use this as an identifier instead of figuring out like, oh, there's a bracket missing. Because why else would there be a bracket followed by static? Come on. So, I mean, JavaScript's error messages are not helpful at all. I only know what I'm doing because I know a weird amount of JavaScript. So I've been programming in JavaScript since 2009, 2008. And I know a lot of weird little things about it. So I'm used to these fucky little things with the language. Because I've made like every possible mistake in JavaScript. That was a weird way to phrase that. I have a lot of experience with JavaScript, basically. That's the gist. And I kind of forgot what I was doing. Oh, I fixed the error. There we go. So in this scenario, what? Lingering error. So in this scenario, you have a green that's about to be pushed. And I guess this would be allowed because there is there's a gray here. So you could move this here and this here and then move that there. How would I programmatically check that? Because we want to catch this at generation time before we generate the ring and plop it in here. We want to make sure that because let's say that this ring is like, you know, there's a one stack that doesn't have a 0, but then let's say that all of these greens have a red and a blue on top of them, then you can't possibly move this blue anywhere, so that's actually impossible, and you're going to lose. So that's not really fair. But if we check the tops of each stack and make sure that either they're empty or the top of the stack is a lower value than what we have here on at least one of the stacks. Doesn't matter what it's pointing to, just on one of the stacks that there's available space. Then we'd keep it, otherwise we'd generate again. So in this scenario, this would not generate because there is no, well, because it's 0, there's no number that's lower than it, so the only case that would be caught is that one of these is empty and none of them are. So you would have to generate something else. Something that would be valid would be red, because there is at least one stack here, this one, that has a number at the top that is lower than 1, which is the ID for red. Likewise with blue, there is 2 that are valid. This one and this one both have at the top of the stack, they are either empty, or at the top of the stack they have a 0 or a 1, which is lower than 2. And then the same thing for the orange. There's in fact only 2 where that would not be valid, which is here and here. But for green, there is not a single one that is empty, so that's not valid. And I think that seems fair. That's random enough that it keeps the challenge up without putting you into an impossible situation. Now, while this situation is not actually impossible, because you could move this blue here to the red, and this red here to the green, and then you can move the green down. I just think this is a much simpler way to check. All right. So we have the groundwork. And then we have the draw stacks. So what do we need to do now? Well, let's actually, hold on. So I do want to be able to test this. Static is legal. And we'll give a ring. So what this will do is for what am I doing? Function cell stack. Okay, so for each stack, we're going to check cellstack.pop. Top ring, and we want to check, well, hold on. Well, we didn't modify the cell stack, so if it's empty, it's not a function I'm going to do. If cell stack.length equals 0, or top ring is less than ring, then return This little gotcha right there. Results equals that. So if the length is 0 or the top ring is less than the ring, then return true, else return false. Return results dot find and filter is a little more particular. Filter, dude. Val equals true. So what we're doing here is we're taking the stacks. Oh, but I need to. Okay, now we gotta figure out some fucking JavaScript array shit. Array equals 1, 2, 3. And array means unmodified. Okay, cool. Oh, that's weird. So we can do the length of the slice by taking the index and then the index plus the length. So we need to take stack.stacks.slice stack.stacks.length minus 1. E. Return stack.stacks, dude, dot slice 0 stacks on length minus 1. So we're getting everything except for the last stack. Dot map function cell stack. Well, I don't even have to do that really. I can just filter. Dot filter function cell stack, and just double checking. So top ring is the top element of the stack, and if the given stack is empty or the top ring is less than the ring, return true, else we return false. So we could just return and this will filter down, so anything that fails this test will not be included in the new array. So the only thing we need to check then is dot length Nah, that seems a little too messy. Okay, so to pass that test means that it's valid. Yeah, so if there is anything in that filtered array, then we are good. So I'm going to go ahead and load the page again. And we're going to do stack.isLegal. So we're going to start with 3. 3 is legal. 2 is legal. 1 is also legal. But 0 is false. 0 is not legal because of everything we mentioned. There is no stack on here that is either empty or has a value lower than 0 at the top. Because like this has a 0 in there. Like nothing's lower than 0. Because we're not dealing with negatives here. Yeah, there we go. So we have a way to check if the move is legal, which means we can filter our randomness. So simplify that a little bit. This puts out a range and it'll just automatically fail. So res equals 1, and then while stack.isLegal res while it's not legal, res equals math for math random times 4. I really hate the BOGO sort approach. Let's not do that. While stack is legal, yeah, okay, here's what we'll do. So we'll start it off with our random value. But while it's not legal, then res equals res plus 1 minus 4. But we do need to make sure, because it is possible to be, is it though? Can you be in a situation where there is no possible legal move to generate? Can you paint yourself in a corner that badly? Let's imagine. So you have all greens, all reds, all blues. In this case, the green, reds, and blues are all illegal because none of them can be placed down. But you cannot have a stack that has a blue and golden ring at the top, because the second that happens, the ring will be taken away. So, yeah, okay. So the gold ring is guaranteed. So we'll actually just do this plus plus res. So say a 2 is generated and it fails, then it's going to increment that up to 3. So we're making it more and more likely to be legal because smaller rings are more likely to be legal. But the golden is absolutely guaranteed. The golden ring can go anywhere. So now we got that settled. We clear, we draw stacks. Now we need to that's kind of the end, isn't it? Stack dot push wait. Ugh. Yeah, there we go. So at 30 FPS, it's generating a bunch of different rings here. Notice how it's never generating a green. It's not what I wanted, but I mean, hey, it's good progress. This is coming together. I've been live for an hour and a half. It's actually showing me that I'm not very efficient at programming JavaScript. Like, this is agonizingly slow. This probably would have been a lot faster if I was doing it in C with SGL, but I want to make something you can play right now. So we're pushing that stack. You can see. This is not right, though. Yeah, it's a good thing I checked that. That's a memory leak. That is a memory leak. That is not supposed to happen. What is going on, dude? That's not right. Hope this doesn't crash the browser. It's completely ignoring me. This doesn't make sense. Why is it leaking memory here? Is it secretly making a copy? It shouldn't be. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, you can't fuck me on this. No, that's impossible. Come on. This is literally impossible. You can't fucking do that. What? Stack is 6. Oh my god, I'm stupid. Thanks for the help, JavaScript. Yeah, thanks for clearly telling me about that error in my code. Thank you for being completely fucking silent. It was a type mismatch. See, cell stack can never be equals 6. Because cell stack is an array, and I was thinking of the number, stack ID. And JavaScript just decides to let this type discrepancy float away into the air. Doesn't say anything about it, it just fails silently. You know, C is weakly typed too, but a C compiler will warn about comparing a pointer and a number. Watch, I'll show you. Warning, comparison between pointer and integer. See? Even though C is weakly typed, it will actually warn you about stuff like this. Because people do things like this, and it is frustrating. So we use type systems. But for some reason, JavaScript has a type system and refuses to use it. Okay, so we draw a random ring. We push it into the stack at the 6th stack, or 7th stack. We clear and draw the stacks. What we need to do so this loop function runs every delta time. So we need to think of this in terms of ticks, because like while I could just do a set timeout for like 10 seconds into the future and then let the timeout asynchronously interrupt my code and cause a race condition, that's probably not a great idea. I want to have basically like record the use the delta time and the elapsed time to have basically after a certain number of ticks, then it'll release the ring. I am not good at talking. So game.elapsed plus equals t delta. And we need a way to give the text area some style. Just needs outline non-border px solid black display block margin 0 auto width 500. Get all this aligned. Let's see how that looks. Hello. There you go. How do you get rid of that? Okay, it says resize. By the way, pro tip, if you use the inspect element and then select whatever you have selected, now Google Chrome will show you like a $0 equals somewhere. I don't know why Firefox isn't doing it, because this was how I found out. Yeah, $0 is a hint that there's a variable named $0 that points to whatever you have selected in the inspect element. So that's just a quick way you can select something during live time. That is really narrow. Can I make that higher? Okay, that's why. So this is where we'll display our text. Go back to game.js. And static elapsed time as string. Okay. So this is going to be expressed in milliseconds. Go ahead and floor that. Let sec you might as well also have the score. Okay, so sec equals m sec divided by 1000. I'm getting confused. Okay, if you have 40,000 and 50 milliseconds, what you really have is 40 seconds and yeah. And if I were to split those apart, I would take this divided by 1000 and split that off, so I have the right idea there. But then the milliseconds, I should be able to just elapsed yeah. In minutes, we're gonna do elapsed you know what? Is that right though? Or T delta is 1000 milliseconds divided by the frame rate, so divided by 20, taking a 20th of that. Yeah, okay. And every tick we are adding that T delta to our elapsed time. So we can floor that to remove any fractional part which is irrelevant. Take the seconds, which is elapsed divided by let's start small. So elapsed mod 1000 is our milliseconds. Elapsed mod 60,000 divided by 1,000. I don't know why I keep thinking about subtraction. So minutes equals math.floor oh no, 3,600,000. I don't usually have this hard of a time with this. Am I that tired? I feel like there's a much more efficient way to do this and I'm not thinking about it. Let's just make something that works. So minutes equals math dot floor elapsed mod that magic number. We need to divide by 1,000 and then divide by 60. So let hours equals I think what I usually do is, yeah, I'm making this more complicated than it has to be. So msec didn't miss anything. Elapsed, we need to do 60 minutes, 60 seconds, 1,000 milliseconds. So it's 1.6 minutes. That seems right. For the minutes we just display 1. I was just making this way more complicated than it had to be. Oh wait, was I? Yeah, the t wasn't changing. So elapse. If hours then stir plus equals Is there a way to format strings in JavaScript? Ugh. So we need a zero pad hours to be at least not 23, asshole. Come on. What is going on? Stop. Pad it out to be at least 2. There we go. And then what we're just going to do is minutes to 2 and colon game.0 pad seconds to and pad that to 3. Okay, so now we can, son of a bitch, we need the, text. Okay, so now we can set this to elapsed to string time, and then new line score game dot score. And of course something is wrong. T delta is not defined. Okay, bullshit. Elapsed to string is not defined. Stop switching to the wrong window. Game dot elapsed to string. So anal. There you go, we've got a little timer. We need to make it so that this text area cannot be selected, or it can't be written to. I think you can just do read only. Can you please? Yeah. Can I kill that? Here, let's introduce a kill function. Static kill game dot okay, so you can see I can edit this. Now if I add the attribute read only, I can no longer edit it. Cool. Now we're going to add an extra space on the time and add that read only attribute. What are you doing? Can't tell where the cursor is half the time. I'm gonna actually game dot get game stats. Why are you indenting that? Stop. Or rather, if you're going to indent, make sure that they match, that they align, because the whole fucking point. There. Let's do a stopwatch. It's slow. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And I suppose it's not a huge issue. But I would like it to... I just don't know how I would go about correcting the delta time. T delta. We're going to have T delta actually be based on another variable. So static T delta target. And then T delta will be okay, so Okay, so what does that mean? If the number of milliseconds that passes between the last date stamp and the current date stamp is greater than the t delta, the number of milliseconds that should have passed, what does that mean? What does it mean if the actual time passed is more? If so, then game.t we'll just lower it. But then also no, let's not do that. If we're going to return, then it should be consistent values. So game.t delta minus equals 5 return, and then if we manage to get past that, and game.t delta is less than game.t delta target, then game.t delta plus equals 5. So we'll let it fall to meet the actual time that's being elapsed. But if it falls behind if it falls behind the delta target, then it's going to balance back up. So it's going to do this balancing act. That's at least the idea. Ooh, this is interesting. We've invented time travel. We are now 17 hours in the past. Wasn't the condition for that to be if the hours are greater than 0? How does that work? It's because it's minutes. Okay, so we're 50 minutes into the past. Oh, it's because it's not updating, that's why. See, now the elapsed time is at least doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's saying like somewhere between 45 and 50 milliseconds are being elapsed between. The phrase, but T delta keeps on. I must be thinking about this wrong. Okay, so I get him killed right away. We start out with a T delta of 33, and the real elapsed time is 40. But it's doing it the wrong way. We want T delta to slow down, but we're actually making it speed up. That's why. It's because of the order that I had these in that's what confused me. Usually I'd write if the thing we're checking is less than some constant value, then thing we're checking plus plus. There we go. Now we have T delta stabilizing. Let's go ahead and refresh the page. I have a stopwatch here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good, it's not drifting. All right, cool. My timer is stable now. It's actually accurate to real time. It's not as accurate as an atomic clock, but it's accurate. And the reason I know it's not as accurate as atomic clock is because you see T delta is bouncing between 43 and 48, whereas the actual elapsed time is bouncing between that. So because they're not exactly equal, that's how I know. I guess it doesn't really have to be +5, it can just be 1. So now we're having it a little closer. Let's there we go, now you have some clean integer values. And T delta is more or less stable where it's at. If it gets up to the actual elapsed time, then it wants to trend back down towards wanted, towards the actual target frame rate, the target T delta. And if it is too slow for real time, then it will trend upwards. So this ensures that the tick rate is accurate to real time, as I just verified with a stopwatch. Cool. Let's go ahead and set the elapse to 35, 5,800, wait, 3,600,000, and just like do 35, 9. So I want to see what an hour looks like. That's not right. Maybe it was right. No, it's an hour. An hour and 60 minutes? Come on. Okay. It's a good thing I'm testing this. Why am I... Oh my god, why... I can usually figure this out. Like, no trouble with it. JavaScript's math is fucking weird because it uses integers and floats in the same number type. And it throws me off. So we need to start with the modulus 60 times 60 times 1,000. Fuck this. I'm gonna const second there. And we're doing elapsed modulus hour divided by, is that a minute? And for the seconds, we're doing elapsed modulus minute divided by second. There we go. Good. And I don't think the hour really needs to have a 2-digit. Like, you're not going to spend 20 hours playing this game. If you can last in this game for 20 hours, that would be really fucking impressive. It won't make a difference anyway, though, because, like, who's going to care that the hour is 1 digit? So instead of this, we'll just start plus equals hours dot to string. I am too impatient for this. Why 100? What? Okay, something is fucky here. Something is fucky wucky. 100. Oh, I know what. Okay. I forgot about the colon. There we go. So that works. And I can, that wasn't what I wanted. Game.score plus equals 50. You can see I can increase the score and it appears in the text area. Emergent behavior. I almost hit Control D, which would have brought the bookmarks thing up again, because I was preparing to log out of the console, like after I'm done testing a C program and I need to go back into the editor. Seriously. Where were those console.logs? Here they are. Oh. That's another thing about JavaScript is that like you can specify an interval of 10 milliseconds, but you will not get an interval of 10 milliseconds. For some reason, there's a cap, and it doesn't tell you where the cap is, and it just will execute it at whatever speed it wants, which is really bad for business. But yeah, if you're expecting to do a 1 millisecond wait time between basically the interval represents the, what would it be? The minimum amount of time to wait. But in practice, it will almost always be greater than, like the number of milliseconds that pass between each set timeout or set interval. And that's kind of a problem because it doesn't give you what you want. And then there's request animation frame, which is supposed to sync up with the monitor refresh rate, but you can't specify the actual frame rate that you want. So that's a thing. I suppose I could so like Is that going to be bad for performance? That seems kind of slow. Yeah, it's drifting. So killing and starting new loops is definitely not the way to go. Oh shit. Yeah, that's not good. So it looks like request animation frame, when it calls your callback function, it passes some kind of time value. Okay, so request animation frame basically does what I was trying to do here. So I should probably be doing that. And because you're constantly calling request animation frame, that means yeah. So basically the thing where I was trying to kill and restart the loop, because that way I could control the T delta to change it. It's kind of provided by request animation frame. So you don't get to choose the frame rate, but you do get to choose the tick rate. You just gotta work with them, if that makes any sense. So we're going to get rid of the interval. Replace it with, was it is running or something? Oh boy. Loop running. So we'll do that. And game.tick, so timestamp in there. So last stamp uses curve stamp, and then just return. And then we're not doing date.now. Diff equals curve stamp minus game.last stamp. The only problem is that I don't know what kind of timestamp we're dealing with because it says DOM high-res timestamp. So for all I know, this could be in microseconds, it could be in nanoseconds, which is not unrealistic because the usleep function that's provided with the POSIX library for C takes an argument that's in microseconds. And if I'm not mistaken, there is some kind of well, there's some kind of struct somewhere in the Linux ecosystem that has a nanosecond parameter. So, what is going on there? Oh. So yeah, it's not infeasible. What I need to do is examine it. Accidentally went and used normal strings. Loop is not defined. How is it running? Don't do that. Don't paste shit in. Not cool. So if game.loop running, it's a bit icky, but this is what we got to do. Then, request animation. Confused myself. Loop is not defined. What are you fucking talking about? Game.loop. Some piss poor scope resolution, I must say. So it is still in milliseconds. No, we don't. And that is definitely a lot faster. That's like 3 times faster. Okay, so diff equals curve stamp minus game.last stamp. Game.last stamp equals curve stamp. And wait. Yeah, okay. So it's very fast. And I could make it. No, I couldn't. I was going to say I could make the rendering faster if I used that buffering approach where you like get image data and you can access the buffer directly and then just put it directly onto the canvas, which is significantly faster. But if I did that, I would have to handle the graphics on my own because I don't. Yeah, you're just directly accessing the buffer, directly setting the bytes, the RGB values. So if I were to do that, I would have to invent all of the math to make these circles. I'm not going to do that. This is fast enough anyway. So the question is, do I actually need this T delta? Because now I don't have control over the actual frame rate, but it is running a lot faster. And the point of T delta is to track how much time is passing between frames, between ticks. And I want to use that so effectively it is the difference. Hi, I'm Braden. I've never programmed a game engine before. I'm sure this is stuff that's already like old news. Anyways, man, my brain is fried. I am just like not able to think right now. We need to think in terms of time steps. I think I'll keep the T delta target. So we'll have our target frame rate of 30. And we'll start the T delta out at the target rate. But so if T delta is less than diff, I mean, I could just okay. So all I know is that we have our tick, which now just sets the T delta to the diff, but we also keep track of the target tame rate, the target frame rate that we wanted, which was 30 FPS. And I suppose that whatever I'm doing to whatever I'm doing that requires a time step, I can probably factor in that that wanted T delta to either average out or approximate whatever we're trying to do so that it always is happening at the same speed. I don't know. Oh yeah, there's something I need to, can you please, game.kill. Cool, so that still works. And so 1,000 times T delta is the frame rate. What are you doing? Ooh. Undefined, fuck off. Why? It doesn't make any damn sense. This is JavaScript being really stupid. I do it this way because I want to be able to just add lines in whenever I want without having to mess with the existing lines, so I can just add another line below. But because JavaScript likes to confuse semicolons and new lines, I have to do this silliness to prevent this from becoming an error. What? Oh, maybe it's just 1,000 divided by... There we go. Wow, look at that go. Look at how fast it's going. It's a blur. Let me check that the time is still accurate. So no more debugging that I have to do regarding that. I'm going to run this for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to end the stream for tonight, and next stream I'm probably going to handle the game loop and input stuff, like what happens when you drag a ring. I need to find a way to have it time the ring. Yeah, the timer's on. It's on point. There's battery on my cell phone, 28%.